Rogers, Steven.
Just give me a chance.
Sorry, son.
So let's talk about the growing buzz around Chris Evans possibly returning to the MCU as Nomad in Avengers Doomsday. At this point, it's honestly not that hard to picture. Evans keeps insisting he's not in the film, but let's be real, actors denying they're in Marvel movies isn't exactly new. Remember Andrew Garfield trying to convince everyone he wasn't in Spider-Man No Way Home? We all know how that turned out. So when Chris says it's sad not being back with the band, but also happens to talk about Pedro Pascal being on set in the UK and references not being invited to the party, it all sounds a little too rehearsed to believe. Let's break it down. Evans was promoting his movie alongside Dakota Johnson and Pedro Pascal when he dropped that comment about feeling like he missed the party. The funny part? Dakota didn't even recognize Steve Rogers as Captain America at first, which gave the whole moment this hilariously awkward vibe. But Evans saying that he's not part of the upcoming Avengers project doesn't just feel convincing, especially when we consider how big the cast is getting. Robert Downey Jr. is reportedly returning, and even legacy X-Men from the Fox era are rumored to be involved. So really, why wouldn't Evans be part of it too? And then there's the idea that if Evans does return, he doesn't even have to come back as the same Steve Rogers we saw in Endgame. The multiverse has opened up so many doors. He could come back as Nomad, a variant who gave up the Captain America title, or even as something totally unexpected like Hydra Cap. That would shake things up and add some serious tension. Imagine seeing a darker Steve Rogers fighting on the wrong side, forcing the current heroes to take him down. That kind of twist would definitely leave an impact. What's more, we haven't really seen any closure for Old Man Steve. The MCU kind of hinted that he's still around. Some people think he might be on the moon or in hiding. Others believe he went back to his original timeline. Either way, his story doesn't feel fully finished, and that leaves plenty of room for Marvel to bring him back when the stakes are at their highest. There are also fun theories flying around that Marvel could de-age Evans through some leftover tech from Endgame or bring in a younger variant from a different universe entirely. Either way, it doesn't seem far-fetched to believe he'll pop up again in Doomsday or even Secret Wars. Maybe he won't have a massive role like before, but even a few scenes could add weight, especially if they explore the multiverse from different angles. That idea of bringing Chris Evans back as Nomad instead of Captain America really makes a lot of sense, especially considering where the MCU is headed. Because let's face it, Marvel's not about to step on Sam Wilson's toes after all the effort put into setting him up as the new Cap. So, having Steve return, but this time as Nomad, gives him a fresh path to walk without overshadowing Sam. And it opens the door for a bunch of interesting storylines, particularly if we're talking about a Nomad who's been on the run, off the radar, and maybe even a little more jaded. It's also a cool opportunity to dive into a different version of Steve, one who's no longer the bright-eyed soldier, but someone who's lived through the consequences of big decisions, war, loss, and betrayal. So bringing back the Infinity War version of Cap with the beard and the darker edge just fits. You know, the one who stood toe-to-toe with Ross without flinching? That Steve had grit. And Evans playing a slightly more rebellious, less by-the-book hero would feel fresh, especially since we've already seen how much fun he had playing against type in Deadpool and Wolverine. Plus, the original Nomad costume from the comics, it's wild in the best way. That plunging V-neck, yellow cape, and zero patriotic symbolism. It was Steve trying to redefine who he was without the red, white, and blue. It didn't last long in the comics, but the idea behind it was strong. A man without a country still fighting for what's right. Imagine that being adapted with a modern twist. Maybe even blend that look with the tactical gear from Infinity War to create a battle-worn, grounded version of Nomad that fits the tone of Doomsday or Secret Wars. What's great is there's still a bunch of gaps in Steve's timeline that haven't been explored. Like, what really happened when he returned the Infinity Stones? Or what was he doing all that time living with Peggy in an alternate reality? The Nomad identity is the perfect way to revisit those missing years, whether through flashbacks, multiversal side stories, or even an animated series like Marvel What If. Those unexplored arcs could show a Steve Rogers who's done running from hard truths and is ready to face the next multiversal crisis. And considering that Nomad was later used by other characters like Jack Monroe and even Ian Rogers, his adopted son, the title could live on beyond Chris Evans. But for now, letting Steve wear it again, not as a symbol of America, but as a symbol of resistance, might just be what the MCU needs. It's a bold direction, one that doesn't just rely on nostalgia but builds something new with a character we already love. That idea would definitely line up with everything we've been talking about regarding Chris Evans returning, not as Captain America, but as someone new, or rather, someone old with a twist, like Nomad. Because if Marvel is already leaning into multiverse variants and legacy characters, then having Evans play multiple roles across different realities only adds fuel to the fire. We've already seen him return as Johnny Storm in Deadpool and Wolverine, and the crowd went wild. So what's stopping Marvel from pulling off something even bigger in Avengers Doomsday? And that's where it gets interesting. Because if Evans' Human Torch is just one of several versions out there, then the original Fantastic Four movie cast showing up again doesn't seem far-fetched. Especially not after that post-credit scene in Thunderbolts, where the spaceship that arrived didn't exactly match the one seen in the Fantastic Four First Steps trailers. That subtle design change, like the difference in the number of legs on the ship, feels deliberate, almost like Marvel's planting a clue. And when Kevin Feige teases that they may not be the same ship, you know something's up. So if that mysterious ship in Thunderbolts isn't piloted by Pedro Pascal's Reed Richards and his team, then the idea that it belongs to the original 2000s cast makes perfect sense. That version of the team would be the perfect surprise, especially if Evans, Grufford, Alba, and Chiklis showed up ready to lend a hand, or stretch, flame on, and clobber against a multiversal threat like Doctor Doom or Galactus. And let's not forget how all of this could tie back to Steve Rogers. If Chris Evans really does return as Nomad, then Doomsday might be the movie that lets him cross paths with both his past selves. Literally. Picture a moment where Nomad Steve and Johnny Storm exchange a confused glance, or maybe even team up briefly, showcasing just how tangled this multiverse web has become. That kind of playful yet emotional payoff is what makes these crossover events worth it. And that's that for today's video, folks. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in our next video. Your suggestions for future videos are always welcome in the comments section down below. Don't forget to like our video, share this video with your family and your friends, and subscribe to our channel to stay in the loop. And if you want, you can share your thoughts about this video in the comments section below, and let us know, what do you think about Cap coming back as Nomad or Captain Hydra, an alternate version of Captain from comics? Thanks for watching.